We live in the most connected age in human history. With just one touch, we can access knowledge, create art, build businesses, or even speak to machines that think for themselves. And yet many of us feel more lost than ever, surrounded by infinite information, but starving for wisdom. Drowning in connection, but longing for meaning. In this video, we will journey together through the lens of ancient Stoicism and modern reflection to ask the question that matters most. How do we find a life of purpose in a world ruled by screens and artificial intelligence? We'll explore what it means to be human in a world that's becoming more digital by the second. What does it mean to be alive when everyone around you is plugged in and scrolling? How do you find your place in the world when everything and everyone is just a swipe away? These are the questions that have never been more relevant and yet have never been more ignored. So stay with me until the end, because the answers may change not just how you see technology, but how you see yourself. In today's world, silence has become a luxury. From the moment we wake up, our minds are bombarded with endless notifications, messages, and updates. Our phones buzz before we even open our eyes, pulling us into a storm of digital noise. Algorithms compete for our attention, shaping what we think, what we desire, and even how we see ourselves. We live in an age where the volume of information is multiplied, but the depth of our understanding has thinned. The question is, in this chaos, how do we reclaim our minds? The human brain was never designed to process this constant flood of stimulation. For thousands of years, life moved slowly, measured by the rising of the sun, the changing of the seasons, and the rhythm of nature. But in just a few decades, we've shifted into a world where information never sleeps. Neuroscientists warn that this relentless exposure rewrites our focus, making us restless and addicted to instant rewards. What we gain in speed, we often lose in clarity. The Stoics understood this problem long before the digital age. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind." To him, the danger was not in the world itself, but in how we allowed the world to invade our thoughts. In his time, the distractions were smaller: political debates, social duties, the noise of the Roman marketplace. Today, those distractions have multiplied 1,000-fold, disguised as entertainment, productivity, and connection. Yet the principle remains the same. If we do not guard our minds, we lose ourselves. Imagine standing in a crowded marketplace where everyone is shouting at the same time. This is the modern internet. Every scroll, every swipe, every notification is a voice demanding your attention. The Stoics would remind us, not every voice deserves to be heard. Not every thought deserves to enter. The art of living wisely begins with the art of filtering, choosing what is worthy of your time and what is simply noise. Science confirms what the Stoics intuited. Studies on attention reveal that multitasking is a myth, and constant switching between tasks lowers productivity and happiness. Psychologists call it attention residue, the scattered fragments of focus left behind when we move too quickly from one distraction to another. This residue builds up, leaving us drained, anxious, and unfulfilled. The paradox of the digital world is that it promises connection, yet often delivers isolation. The Stoic practice of silence, reflection, and journaling becomes revolutionary in this context. To pause before reacting, to reflect before speaking, to write before scrolling, these are not just spiritual exercises, but acts of rebellion against a culture of noise. In a world designed to keep us endlessly engaged, choosing stillness is a way of reclaiming freedom. The noise does not have to define us. So let us begin here, by noticing the noise around us, and more importantly, the noise within us. Every day we are given the chance to decide what enters our minds and what is left outside. In this decision lies the foundation of wisdom, because when we create space for silence, we create space for clarity. And in clarity, we rediscover the art of being fully alive. Life today feels unpredictable. Jobs disappear overnight. Entire industries transform because of artificial intelligence. Economies rise and fall without warning. We scroll through endless headlines of crisis and uncertainty, feeling as though the ground beneath us is constantly shifting. It is easy to become anxious in such a world, to feel powerless in the face of forces far beyond our control. Yet the Stoics remind us of a timeless truth. While the world is uncertain, our response to it is not. Epictetus, born a slave and later, one of the greatest Stoic teachers. Reduced philosophy to a single distinction: the things within our control and the things beyond it. This dichotomy of control is not an abstract idea, but a practical compass for daily life. We cannot control the economy, the weather, or the decisions of others. But we can control our choices, our values, our actions, and our attitude. This simple division, if practiced deeply, can transform chaos into clarity. Modern psychology echoes this ancient wisdom. Researchers speak of the locus of control, whether a person believes outcomes are shaped by external forces or by their own actions. Studies show that those with an internal locus of control, who focus on what they can influence, experience less stress and more resilience. The Stoics were ahead of their time. They taught us to anchor our peace not in circumstances, but in ourselves. Consider a modern example: losing a job to automation. This is a painful reality many face in a world where machines replace human labor. The event itself is outside our control. But what happens next? Whether we collapse into despair or rise with new purposes, ours to decide. We can choose to learn, to adapt, to discover new meaning. Fate may close one door, but our response determines whether we see another one opening. This principle applies not only to great challenges, but to daily frustrations. Traffic jam, the rude comment online, the glitch in our technology, these are all beyond us. Yet our peace is not stolen by these events. It is surrendered by our reaction to them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. In a digital age filled with triggers and irritations, this lesson is more vital than ever. Living by what we can control is not an escape from responsibility. It is, in fact, the deepest responsibility of all. We are responsible for our character, our integrity, and the way we treat others. By focusing our energy on what is ours to shape, we stop wasting it on battles we cannot win. And in this shift, we find freedom, not freedom from difficulty, but freedom from needless suffering. So let us carry this forward. Every time the world overwhelms us, pause and ask, is this within my control or not? If yes, act with courage. If not, release it with grace. This simple question can become a shield against chaos. For in a world where so much is uncertain, the one certainty we always hold is the mastery of ourselves. Life is inherently chaotic. Empires rise and fall. Wars erupt. Economies collapse. In our modern world, technology accelerates uncertainty to an even faster pace. The difference today is not that chaos exists, but that we are constantly reminded of it. Every news alert, every viral video, every online debate. The flood of information magnifies our fears, making the world seem more unstable than ever. But the Stoics invite us to see chaos differently, not as a curse, but as a path to strength. For the Stoics, resilience is not about resisting the storm, but about learning to stand firmly within it. Epictetus, who endured slavery and exile, taught that suffering is not what breaks us. Our judgment about suffering is. Marcus Aurelius, ruling during plagues and wars, reminded himself daily, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. To them, obstacles were not reasons to despair, but opportunities to practice courage. Modern science now supports this ancient view. Psychologists define resilience as the ability to adapt positively in the face of adversity. Research on neuroplasticity shows that the brain can rewire itself after trauma, creating new pathways that help us recover and even grow stronger. This means that resilience is not only a mindset, but a biological truth. Humans are built to endure, and even in hardship, our minds seek healing. Yet in the digital age, our resilience is often weakened by constant comparison and instant gratification. When we expect life to be smooth and effortless, we are shocked by difficulty. Social media shows highlight reels of perfection while hiding the reality of struggle. The Stoics, by contrast, expected difficulty as a natural part of existence. To wake each morning prepared for challenge is not pessimism, it is wisdom. It transforms suffering from an enemy into a teacher. Imagine facing burnout at work or anxiety about the future. Instead of asking, "Why me?" the Stoic asks, "How can I use this?" This shift in perspective changes the entire experience. pain becomes training. Failure becomes knowledge. Loss becomes clarity. When chaos strikes, it does not crush the Stoic. It reveals what cannot be crushed, the inner will. But resilience is not just for ourselves. When we endure with strength, we become an anchor for others. A calm presence in a crisis, a gentle word in a storm, a steady hand when others panic. In a chaotic world, resilience is contagious. By holding firm, we remind others that they too can withstand what seems unbearable. So the Stoic lesson is this: do not wish for an easy life, wish for the strength to live any life. Resilience does not remove chaos, transforms it into meaning. And when the storms of life come, as they always will, remember, you are not fragile glass, but tempered steel, shaped by fire, unbroken by the world. In an age of endless choice and instant gratification, discipline has become a forgotten virtue. We live in a world where comfort is one tap away, food delivered in minutes, entertainment streamed instantly, answers found in seconds. Yet what is easy rarely makes us strong. The Stoics knew this long ago. True freedom is not found in indulging every impulse, but in mastering them. Discipline, to the Stoics, was not punishment, it was liberation. Epictetus reminded his students that freedom begins in the mind. A person enslaved to desire, fear, or distraction is never truly free, even if they hold power. Marcus Aurelius echoed this when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." To practice discipline is to reclaim sovereignty over ourselves, to say, "I am not ruled by appetite, but by reason, not by impulse, but by choice." Modern science confirms this ancient truth. Neuroscientists speak of the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for self-control, planning, and decision-making. Each act of discipline strengthens these neural pathways, much like muscles grow through resistance. Psychologists call this delayed gratification, the ability to sacrifice immediate pleasure for long-term growth. The famous marshmallow experiment showed that children who practiced self-control tended to live healthier, more successful lives decades later. Discipline is not just philosophy, it is biology. But discipline is not about grand gestures. It is not only about climbing mountains or enduring extreme hardships. True discipline begins with small, consistent choices. Waking up on time, choosing silence over noise, journaling instead of scrolling, walking instead of complaining. These seemingly simple acts build inner strength brick by brick until the foundation of our character is unshakable. In today's digital world, discipline is also about protecting our attention. The Stoics warned against wasting energy on trivial matters. Today, that wisdom applies to the infinite scroll of social media, the pull of clickbait, the endless cycle of consumption. Every moment we spend on what is meaningless is a moment stolen from what is meaningful. Discipline is the art of saying no, not to pleasure itself, but to the distractions that erode our soul. And yet discipline must be practiced with compassion, not cruelty. To be harsh with ourselves is not Stoicism, it's self-sabotage. The Stoics valued balance. To train the mind and body, but also to forgive when we falter. Real discipline is not perfection, but persistence. It is falling 7 times and standing up 8. It is learning to guide ourselves firmly, but gently, toward the life we are meant to live. So let us embrace discipline as a form of strength, not as chains, but as wings. For in mastering ourselves, we discover true freedom, the freedom to choose wisely, to live purposefully, to rise above the noise of temptation. In a world that constantly pulls us outward, discipline calls us inward, reminding us that the greatest power is not conquering others, but conquering ourselves. Life rarely unfolds the way we imagine. Careers shift unexpectedly. Relationships change. Illness arrives without warning, and the future we planned can vanish overnight. In moments like these, we often ask, why me? Why now? Yet the Stoics invite us to a different perspective. They teach us not just to endure fate, but to embrace it fully. This principle is called amor fati, to love one's fate. Amor fati is not passive surrender, nor is it blind optimism. It is the radical act of saying yes to life, exactly as it is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." To him, every event, whether joyful or painful, was raw material for growth. The challenge is not to control fate, but to transform it into meaning. What is thrown into the fire of life can either consume us or illuminate us. Modern psychology offers a parallel in the concept of acceptance and commitment. Studies show that those who accept reality rather than resist it experience lower stress and higher levels of well-being. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It means acknowledging what is beyond our control and choosing how to respond. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, expressed this truth powerfully. Even in the darkest suffering, he wrote, "We retain the freedom to choose our attitude." In a digital and AI-driven world where change happens faster than we can anticipate, where entire industries vanish, social norms shift overnight, and the pace of technology leaves many feeling left behind, the Stoic perspective is more vital than ever. To resist these changes only deepens our suffering, but to embrace them, to find opportunity even in disruption, transforms uncertainty into possibility. That is the essence of amor fati. Yet to love fate does not mean life becomes easy. It requires courage to embrace disappointment, humility to accept loss, and patience to see meaning when it is not yet visible. It asks us to surrender the illusion of control while strengthening the reality of choice. In this way, amor fati is not defeat, but defiance, a refusal to let suffering dictate the quality of our soul. So let us practice this art. Let us wake each morning and whisper, yes, to everything that comes. Let us meet change not with bitterness, but with curiosity. Let us love not only the moments of joy, but also the trials that shape us. For when we embrace fate, we no longer live as victims of life. We live as its willing partners. And in this partnership, every moment, no matter how difficult, becomes sacred. We live in an era where machines can think, create, and even imitate emotions. Artificial intelligence writes, paints, and converses, often better and faster than humans. In such a world, many quietly wonder, what then is left for us? If technology can outperform us in logic and efficiency, where do we find our unique place? The Stoics would answer with clarity. Meaning has never been about outpacing others, but about understanding ourselves. Epicurus, the ancient Greek philosopher who founded Stoicism, used to say that the chief task in life was to seek and find our proper good. And when we do that, he said, all else, all external things, come into place by themselves. Stoicism teaches that meaning is not discovered in external achievements or what we have, but cultivated in the soul. What really matters, Epictetus reminded his students, is not what happens, but how we respond. Seek not for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. The digital age, however, tempts us to measure our worth by metrics. Likes, followers, algorithms, all the things that are within our control, but which don't actually matter. True meaning cannot be quantified. It is felt in the quiet alignment of our actions with our deepest values. This insight, so central to Stoicism, finds resonance in modern psychology. Viktor Frankl, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, observed that humans, he says, can endure almost any suffering if they find purpose within it. Modern studies on well-being and meaning echo this. Those who live with a sense of meaning report greater resilience, greater happiness, and even greater longevity. Machines may calculate, but only humans can create meaning from struggle and joy and love. That is our irreplaceable gift. The danger of the digital age is that we outsource not only our labor, but our sense of purpose. We scroll endlessly, consuming what others create, mistaking stimulation for fulfillment. But meaning is never passive. It is not given to us by a screen. It is chosen through intention. Every act of kindness, every moment of discipline, every choice to live with courage is a declaration. My life has meaning because I choose to give it meaning. Imagine walking through a city built by machines, efficient, dazzling, flawless. Yet if there is no love, no sacrifice, no human connection, what would such perfection be worth? Stoicism calls us back to the essence of being human, to live with reason, with virtue, and with a sense of duty to others. To use the language of the Stoics, it is to practice piety to the gods, justice to people, courage in the face of fear, and wisdom in the pursuit of truth. This is not an invitation to reject the advancements of technology, but to master our relationship with them. Just as Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, used the tools of his time to govern wisely and justly, we too can use AI to expand our reach if we remember that tools serve us, not define us. Machines can process data, but only we can decide what is worth living for. So let us not surrender meaning to efficiency. Let us not trade depth for speed. In a world increasingly run by machines, our task is simple yet profound: to remain deeply, beautifully, unshakably human. When I heard that OpenAI had developed an algorithm that could recommend music, I felt a twinge of fear. You've probably experienced this too. That feeling when a machine starts to do something that was previously thought to be uniquely human. In a world saturated by algorithms that decide what we see, hear, and even feel, there is a quiet danger: outsourcing too much of our lives to machines. When our playlists are chosen, our feeds are curated, and our choices are predicted, it is easy to forget that meaning cannot be recommended by an algorithm. Meaning is not a trending topic, nor is it a perfectly tailored ad. It is something we must search for deliberately, something that grows in the soil of our inner life, not in the endless scroll of digital distraction. The Stoics would remind us that our greatest freedom lies in our judgment, how we choose to see and respond to the world. No AI, no machine, no algorithm can ever replace this fundamental capacity. They can shape environments, but they cannot take away our power to decide who we are within them. This is why Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In a digital age, this wisdom has never been more urgent. We must ask ourselves, are we living, or are we merely being lived by the algorithm? Are our days guided by conscious intention, or are they drifting unconsciously along paths designed by others? This question is not just about technology, it is about sovereignty. To live with meaning is to reclaim our power to choose, to create, and to act beyond the noise of external influence. Meaning is often found in places where the digital world falls short: in silence, in nature, in human connection that is unmediated by a screen. A walk at dawn, a handwritten letter, the stillness of breathing, these are experiences no AI can fully replicate. They anchor us in reality, reminding us that we are more than data points and consumer profiles. We are beings capable of love, of creativity, of sacrifice. But we should not reject technology outright. Instead, we must use it as a tool, not a master. A hammer can build a house or destroy it. It depends on the hands that hold it. In the same way, algorithms can deepen our ignorance or expand our wisdom, depending on how consciously we engage with them. The responsibility always returns to us. If there is a lesson to take from Stoicism in the age of AI, it is this: cultivate inner strength, because the world will always change faster than you can control. When storms come, whether digital or physical, you will not be shaken if your roots run deep. The algorithm may know your preferences, but it will never know your purpose. That is something only you can define. And so, the question lingers. In this digital and AI-driven world, what meaning will you choose to create? Not the one suggested to you, not the one sold to you, but the one born from your own clarity, your own values, your own courage. Because in the end, meaning is not found, it is made. The act of making it is what makes us fully human. In this era of artificial intelligence, a profound question arises. With machines capable of predicting our preferences, optimizing our routes, and even composing music, what distinguishes us from the sum of our algorithms? What makes us uniquely human in a world increasingly shaped by technology? The answer, paradoxically, lies in something technology cannot touch: our freedom, the sovereignty of our own mind. Epictetus, the ancient Stoic philosopher, wisely said, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself can overpower my will," and this truth resonates deeply in our time. AI may suggest products for us, influence the news we see, or even introduce us to potential partners, but it cannot and should not determine the character of our thoughts or the quality of our decisions. Our ability to think for ourselves, to choose our perspective and values, and to act in accordance with our beliefs remains impervious to technological influence. This inner freedom is the wellspring of our humanity. It is the essence of what it means to be human. But this freedom is not a passive state. It is a muscle that must be exercised, a flame that must be tended daily. In a digital culture that bombards us with distractions, Stoicism calls for focus, the discipline to separate what is in our control from what is not. To use the serenity prayer as a metaphor, it's about knowing when to resist the pull of the digital world, when to step back from the endless scroll feed, and when to engage. It's about understanding that true wisdom lies not in accumulating more data points or algorithmic advice, but in curating a life of meaning and purpose. The Stoic path invites us to be intentional creators rather than passive consumers of technology. It encourages us to view AI and digital tools not as masters but as servants to be utilized, not feared. It's about recognizing that technology itself is neutral, its impact on us depending entirely on the role we assign to it. Stoicism thus empowers us to navigate the digital age with intentionality, ensuring that technology augments our humanity rather than diminishes it. The Stoic path also calls for humility, a reminder that no matter how sophisticated AI becomes, it cannot and should not replace the richness of human experience. Life inevitably involves suffering, impermanence, and uncertainty. These are not problems to be solved by algorithms, but opportunities for growth, resilience, and wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The challenge, therefore, is not to coexist with AI, but to thrive while maintaining our humanity, our capacity to love, to create, to empathize, and to keep on learning. And this is where the ancient wisdom of Stoicism offers us the most valuable guideposts. In every era, human beings have searched for wisdom. From the stone tablets of ancient Mesopotamia to the glowing screens of our smartphones, the longing remains the same. How do we live well? Today, surrounded by technology that learns faster than us and a digital culture that demands constant attention, wisdom is no longer a luxury. It is a survival skill. It is not about knowing more facts than others, but about seeing clearly, choosing rightly, and living intentionally. Wisdom begins with perspective. The Stoics taught that events are neutral. It is our judgment that colors them. In an age where algorithms amplify outrage and comparison, wisdom asks us to pause and see things as they truly are. Not every comment needs our reaction. Not every headline deserves our fear. And not every notification holds value. To live wisely today means learning to separate what matters from what merely distracts. Living with wisdom also means cultivating inner stability. We can scroll endlessly, yet still feel empty. We can connect with thousands online, yet remain lonely. The wise person recognizes that meaning cannot be outsourced to devices or outsourced to artificial intelligence. Meaning grows from the choices we make, the habits we nurture, and the values we embody. Wisdom is the art of building a life that feels whole, even when the world feels fragmented. Practically, wisdom today looks like setting boundaries, deciding when to unplug, when to speak, and when to stay silent. It is knowing when to seek information and when to rest in silence. It is practicing empathy in a world quick to condemn, and practicing gratitude in a culture that constantly tells us we need more. These are not grand gestures. They are small acts of alignment between thought, word, and action. Wisdom is also courage. The courage to live differently in a society that rewards noise over depth. The courage to say no to endless scrolling and yes to deep focus. The courage to trust that slowing down is not the same as falling behind. In a digital world obsessed with speed, wisdom whispers, live at your own rhythm. Live as if your soul matters more than your status. And perhaps most importantly, wisdom today is humility. We cannot control the future of artificial intelligence. We cannot predict every disruption that technology will bring, but we can approach it with humility, remembering that no matter how advanced our tools become, we remain human. Fragile, longing, hopeful. Wisdom is the reminder that being human is not a weakness, is our greatest strength. So to live with wisdom today is to live with clarity, courage, and compassion. It is to choose depth over distraction, presence over performance, meaning over noise. In this way, wisdom is not something we chase, but something we practice, moment by moment. And if we do, perhaps we will discover that This course began with a simple, yet profound question. What does it mean to live well in an age of AI? We've journeyed through the vast landscapes of technology, exploring tools that extend and challenge us. Watching artificial intelligence mimic and sometimes surpass human abilities, and examining the intricate ways our lives are interwoven with technology. Yet in the end, every journey we've taken through this exploration returns us to a single question. What does it mean to live well in an age defined by technology, speed, and endless noise? The answer, perhaps, is simpler than we imagine. To live well is not to master every tool, not to win every race, and not to consume every bit of knowledge. To live well is to remain awake, to see clearly, to love deeply, and to act wisely. The digital and AI-driven world will not slow down for us. It will keep evolving, faster and more complex with every passing day. Yet our task is not to keep pace with machines, but to remain grounded as humans. To cultivate presence, resilience, and compassion. In doing so, we reclaim what no algorithm can replicate: the dignity of a soul that seeks truth and meaning. As we stand at the crossroads of ancient wisdom and modern technology, Stoicism offers us a compass, not a map that tells us exactly where to go, but a compass that helps us walk with courage, integrity, and serenity. It reminds us that the storms outside, with a digital noise, societal pressure, or technological change, are never as dangerous as the storms within. And it is within that we must learn to stand firm. Meaning is not something we discover hidden in the code of AI or stored in the vast servers of the internet. Meaning is something we create. It is forged in how we treat others, in the choices we make daily, and in the inner dialogue we nurture with ourselves. The digital world may connect us instantly, but wisdom reminds us that true connection begins in silence, in listening, in being present. So let us leave with this. The future will always be uncertain, but uncertainty is not our enemy. It is the soil where growth takes root. The role of technology is to serve us, but the role of wisdom is to guide us. And when we unite both tools in our hands, clarity in our hearts, we walk forward not as lost wanderers, but as conscious creators of our time. Take a deep breath and remind yourself, you are not defined by the algorithms, not by the speed of the world, and not by the expectations of others. You are defined by the way you live, the love you give, and the truth you choose to embody. That is your meaning, and no machine can ever take it away. As you close this chapter, may you carry this wisdom into your daily life. Slow down, be present, act with courage, love without measure. And in the midst of a world driven by machines, never forget, the most revolutionary act is to live as a fully awakened human being. In the end, wisdom is not something we discover out there in books or on screens, or even in these very words. True wisdom grows when we dare to pause, to look within ourselves, and to ask what truly matters in life. Because wisdom is not a destination, it's a journey. It's a lifelong pursuit of understanding who we are, why we're here, and how we can make a positive impact on the world around us. Technology will keep advancing. The world will keep changing, but the power to choose will always remain in our hands. And perhaps that is what real freedom means. If this journey has given you a new perspective, don't let it end here. Share this video with someone who might also be searching for direction. And subscribe. It's not just to support this channel, but to walk together on a path of wisdom in the midst of a noisy world. Because in the end, we are all learning to live with greater awareness.